When we look at fractions, we can basically divide it into three different groups. We can call it a common fraction, a decimal fraction, and percentage is also a fraction. Now, what's important is that you know the difference between them by identifying them. Now, if you think back of the common fraction, the way you can recognize the common fraction is when you have a numerator and a denominator. For example, 3/5. Okay, then the decimal fraction, the way you're going to identify the decimal fraction is when you see the comma. For example, 0,7. Okay, and then the percentage, there is a specific sign that will indicate that it's a percentage, and we can look at 24%. So this sign is going to tell you it's a percentage. Now, today we're going to focus on the converting or the writing the different fractions as another one. So the common fraction as a decimal, or a decimal as a percentage, or the percentage as a common fraction. Now sometimes it's confusing because you're not sure about the numerators, the place values, or how to convert it from a percentage to one of the other fractions. Okay, now last year you also started with this by just writing them as a common fraction or identifying them as what kind of fraction it is. Now to start off with, I'm going to put certain rules in place for you, or steps that you can follow to be able to write or convert the decimal fraction to a common fraction. Okay, to start with the decimal fraction, so remember you have to know that the comma indicates that it's a decimal fraction. Now to write it as a common fraction, I told you that you have to know what a common fraction looks like. Now to make it easier, we are going to use place values when we work with decimal fractions. So actually from now in grade 7 and onwards, you must know if you see decimal fractions, the word, then you are going to use place values. That makes it easier for yourself. Now to know the place values as decimals, the comma is basically the separation between the units and then the fractions itself. And then you're going to see that on the right hand side of your comma, all the place values are going to be with small letters. Okay, now what makes it easier with this one is that your place value is going to show you what your denominator is going to be. So when you convert decimal fractions to a common fraction, it makes it easier to indicate what your denominator must be. So I'm going to show you. First of all, remember common fraction has a line to show that it's a division, or that you have to do with a fraction. Now to go back and look at your place value, that is going to be a tenth. Now if you think back of grade 6, then you hopefully you will remember that your place values is going to be a tenth, 100, or 1,000th with the units. And the way you're going to write the tenth, your denominator is going to be a 10. Then usually you add a place there as a numerator, and then your 100 will be a denominator of 100, and then also your 1,000th will be a denominator of 1,000. So it can only be one of these options. Okay, now you go to your place value and you see that it's a tenth. So that means your denominator is going to be a 10. And now if you look at the value that's under the place value, there you'll see that it's a 7. So that will be your numerator. And that is how you're going to write the decimal as a common fraction. Okay, the next one, here we've got 0,49. Again with your place values, the unit, a tenth, and a hundredth. Okay, now what your denominator is going to be, if you look at the place value where the last digit is written, then you are going to know what denominator you're going to use. So in this case it's going to be 100, so your denominator is going to be 100. Then you go to the values from the the place value that you used going to the left, you're going to see that it's a 9 and a 4, or 49, and then you're going to write that as your numerator again. Okay, let's have a look at another one. There you've got your units again, your comma, the tenth, hundred, and a thousandth. So in this case, your denominator will be a thousandth. And remember, it's going to be 3 zeros. Okay, and then you're going to use the numbers or the digits that's just below the place values, and that will be your numerator. The 3, the 1, the 3, and the 2. So this will be your answer of just a basic conversion of your decimal to a common fraction. Right, now in some cases you are going to see that your denominator and your place values is going to be confusing, so you're going to write your place values again. So in this case, you're going to see you've got more digits, but there's zeros involved. Okay, so what you're going to do, you stay with the same rules and go to your place values. Your place value is going to tell you what your denominator is going to be, where your last digit is. Don't leave out the tenth, because although it doesn't have a value, it takes a place to know that the 3 is 100th. So your place value is going to tell you what your denominator is going to be, so 100, and that is going to be the denominator of 100. Now the digits that you see from under the place value is going to be your numerator. So in this case, it's going to be 300ths. Okay, moving on to the next one. There I've got more zeros, but my place values, let's have a look at the place values now. The units, then the tenth, the hundredth, and the thousandth. And then your place value again is going to tell you what your denominator is going to be. So in this case, your last digit, that it's not a 0, that is going to be the 4. So that will tell you that the denominator is going to be 1,000th, and then in this case it's going to be a 4. Now when you do common fractions, you will always have to simplify them. Now if you look at the previous ones, you'll see that they can't simplify to a smaller common fraction. This one I made specially to show you that you can basically simplify the 4 over 1,000. Okay, in this case, remember one of the previous videos that I made, I showed you that you can use the 2, the 3, and the 5 to test which one you can divide this with. Now 4 is an even number, so I can use the 2. Can use the 2 there, so then it will be 2 over, this one is going to be a 500. Okay, now if I look at the 2 and 2 over the 500, then you can simplify it again. There's a 2, and the 500 is also an even number, so I can use the 2 again. The 2 again, what I do at the bottom I do at the top, and then your answer, your simplified answer here will be the 1 over 250. Okay, and this will be your simplified answer. So in case you have a decimal that you have to convert or write as a common fraction, they will tell you to simplify where possible, and this is the way that you are going to simplify it.